There you go. And then I'll post it later. You can watch it. Okay, go ahead.
What page should be in? 88. Oh yeah.
The first thing I thought was like that I read that was like probably weird was on page like 91. The whole time he's been talking about how he doesn't care if he dies, like at all, and then all of a sudden because like the girl said that he loves him, he like is a perfect citizen and like goes to like the center and everything. And it's weird to me that like death wouldn't motivate him, but like a no would.
It's weird that she even like sent him a note that said, "I love you."
Yeah, like that's so. I thought that was so
How do you
random.
love someone you've never like talked to or like seen like maybe like 3 times in your life?
And think of the way she gave it to him. It's kind of funny, falling down and having it crumpled in her hand and handing it.
And then he like had to put it in his pocket and like make sure that like the rest of his like coworkers couldn't see it because it was like a piece of paper that he wasn't supposed to have.
And then he just throws it away.
Yeah.
How he like goes from wanting to smash her head in to like loving her, like
His like attitude is like really bipolar in this. He'll go from like being happy to like wanting to kill someone, and I just don't
I
understand.
mean, why would
And
you
then
like
he
tell
just
her that
goes
you
to, like,
wanted to
die.
smash her head in?
And he's like, we're gonna commit suicide together, and then like he gets like he's like so paranoid. He's like on like 94, 95. He's talking about how like he's like positive that she like changed her mind about him like so immediately, and he's just like
He's like really
insane.
paranoid, but like she doesn't really like seem to care like that much. Like she like makes sure that they like won't get caught, but like at the same time she really doesn't care. He's like freaking out all the time. Did you guys think it was like sketchy going through the country with thinking there might be mics everywhere?
A little bit. Like, why waste your money like on putting mics in the country?
So it's weird. So they like have to listen to like every single thing that gets said.
I was like wondering, cause and like he like starts renting out the room from the man, cause there's no telescreen and stuff like that. But like, does that mean, cause he said that it was too expensive, so does that mean that like they have a choice? Cause then like, why would you choose to be watched all the time? Why wouldn't you just not buy one? Or like, are they supposed to have it but he just doesn't? That's my question.
Maybe Winston knows has to have it because he's like a party member, or not like a party member, he like works for like government.
Yeah. I think it's weird then like later on that O'Brien can like turn his like off and on. Like I think it's like weird that he gets to turn his off and on, but like the rest of them have to like keep theirs on all the time.
It's kind of strange that he doesn't know where Catherine is. That's like his wife, and then he like talks about how he wished he like would have pushed her off a cliff or something, and then Julia like said, "Why didn't you?" and like was encouraging him to push her off.
But I think it's weird that you could be like married to someone and then just be like, yeah, this isn't working out, and then you just like leave and like never see them again.
Yeah, and like, she like never even like heard of her before in the book. Like she's never across anything. It's really sketchy.
Well, they like don't even like get married for like loving each other. Like it's just so they can have children, and then that's about it. Yeah, I was just wishing she'd died. I found that funny. Like I don't know. I think it's really odd that like this girl's like super young and everything, and he's like 39. He's already had a wife, and it says like he has varicose veins and like 5 false teeth. But like she's like, I don't even like care. Like I don't know. That's odd. That's like her dad.
Yeah, she's a weirdo.
It's gross studying.
That's scary.
And also like don't like how like she gets stuff on like the black market. Like she like That's
She
like
always
such
just,
a
like,
no rules.
Did you guys find it creepy how she knows so much about him? Like she knew his name, about his
Yeah.
wife,
Yes.
and
And he doesn't even know her.
She's
last
like, I'm
name.
better at finding things with you.
creepy.
Can I borrow Tanner and Garrett for a minute?
No, you're fine.
You guys know what this like rhyme is about? Because I keep saying it, but I don't know like what.
It's
Like
like,
a church one?
it's
Yeah.
like a part of their like past, but like they can't like, they just can't like figure out all the like pieces and put it together. O'Brien knows like parts of it, like when he like went and talked to him at the end, he like knew more of it than what.
And like the Julia knows like some more of it than the old man did too.
And it's like, who was like, she's like the them, like, she's like talking about, like when she like saw Winston, and she's like saying that like, as soon as I saw you, I knew you were against them. She's like talking about like that, like the party, which is like, I don't know, it's weird how she would like just know that he's like against them.
Yeah, so like you could like tell by looking in his eyes.
Because he's like never openly like said it to anyone.
But think about how many other people would probably
Yeah.
know too.
Yeah.
If she can figure it out, then like anyone else can figure it out.
Like kind of how she says like she's been like with like some like the people from the inner party, like it just kind of shows how like corrupt like the government really is.
I like I like they like meet like nonchalantly like all the time, like at like random like gatherings and stuff, like like on the streets and stuff like that. But I don't understand how like if they watch these people all the time, how they haven't noticed
Yeah.
that they're like
They just like hold
always
hands.
by each other,
Or they're like, when like that thing went off.
or
Did
they're
that
just, like,
bomb and then
or, like they both disappeared like the same time all the time. Like they go different ways, but like they both leave at the same time.
didn't like a bomb go off and then he thought that she was dead and then he kissed her.
It's like on the street, in like the middle of
Yeah.
the street.
In the earlier chapters, he talked about how like Syme was too smart and that he would be like vaporized for it, and then eventually he was vaporized and he was just like taken away, like no one remembered, like he was just like gone.
Gone, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was weird though, because like, he was so like smart, but like so dedicated to the party, so like why wouldn't you want him
He was like so
with you?
brainwashed.
Yeah. Like even though he's smart and he like says stuff like how it is, why wouldn't you still want him to be alive, because he supports you so much?
I think it's weird that the party hasn't like noticed like how suspicious like Winston acts all the time. Because I feel like no matter like how much he like tries to like conceal everything, like he's still like is always so paranoid that he like smells.
Or like even when he's like in his house and he's like writing, he like goes like off into the corner so like the thing can't see him. But like it's obvious that he's in his house because he hasn't left through the front door. So like
Yeah.
wouldn't they suspect that he's doing
He's
something?
like clearly hiding.
I think it's strange how they like talk about like people like these like bombs exploding and like how it like said another bomb fell on a piece of waste ground which was used as a playground and several dozen children were blown to pieces. Like he says it like it's like a normal thing. Kids like were blown up. But
There's like no sensitivity to it like at all.
Yeah, and then there's
So-
like that group of prisoners, like just going through the town, and they're like all like,
Yeah, because they're all gonna get hung.
yeah.
Okay, like I don't understand like the whole hate week thing. Like why do they like block out a specific week to like go against like who they're fighting against like in the war, even though they stated that they're not even sure who they're like fighting anymore, and they like hang all these people and they like celebrate it. Like I don't know, that's weird. That's, I don't like that.
It just sounds like weird, like watching somebody like be
Like getting enjoyment out of it, like
yeah.
celebrating that. That's weird.
Yeah, it's weird how all their, like, whenever they think about, like, death, like, when they were, like, when people were, like, drowning in the earlier chapters, like, they just find enjoyment out of it all the time.
scary.
And, like the kids like it too, like they get
Yeah.
excited about it.
I was a little kid who watched that. I would have been scarred for life.
Well, the thing is, then they're like celebrating this, and then they find out, like, while they're like mid celebration, that that's not even the person that they're like fighting anymore, and they just don't even like care. They just switch all the posters and like switch their like speeches and stuff like that.
Yeah, he was like this. Yeah.
I don't understand.
Or it said how the kids were like the ones screaming the loudest at the rally or whatever.
I don't know, like, how you could let your kids do that. Like, why would you let them become like that?
Did it say, like, it was like way at the beginning that there was this one mother that was talking about not wanting her kids to see it or whatever?
You know, she was like
Yeah.
the only person in question.
Yeah.
Where you just kind of like can see like how like corrupt like the kids kind of are already, like when they're just like little, kind of with like the Parsons kids.
Don't be afraid to speculate as to why the author has created those situations, those characters. Like, if you're asking about something, think, what does the author want us to think? What's the point that's trying to be made here? Like, don't be afraid to go beyond the factual.
I thought it was weird when Winston and Julia were like talking, and he says like, "We are the dead," and she says, "No, we're not dead yet." But then, like, it says, "So long as human beings stay human, death and life are like the same thing." Like, I can kind of see how that's like true for them, because I feel like, I don't know, like, their whole life is just like monotonous. Like, their every move is like controlled. Like, they don't get to do anything like exciting. So like, I don't know, death almost seems like a welcome thing for them. Or like again when they were like talking about the shoving off the cliff, it says, after he like would have shoved her off, he said, if I would have been the same person that I am now. Perhaps I would. I'm not certain. Like, how that's weird. How like wouldn't change him if like that happened. Like if he would have pushed her off the cliff. There's just no like sympathy there at all. I don't know.
I thought it was weird how the Brotherhood was organized, how like none of the members know who the other members are. I just was like, how did you get anything done if you're not organized or something? Like, it doesn't seem that they can do very much without knowing who's with them or whatever.
Julia had like a good point. They were like talking about, her and Winston were talking about the war, and it says, when something had happened in connection to the war against Eurasia, she startled him by saying casually that in her opinion the war was not happening. The rocket bombs which fell daily on London were probably fired by the government of Oceania itself, like just to keep the people frightened. Like, I don't know, that like made me think a little bit, like maybe that like actually could be true, because they like don't know who they're fighting. They just know that there's like a war going on because of the bombs and things that could like drop. So maybe that's like the government's way of like keeping like the people from like rebelling and like following what they want them to do.
I mean, if you think about it that way, then the whole war could be like made up. It couldn't even be real.
Didn't they at like one point have a whole bunch of Mongolian people or prisoners or whatever in a parade or something like that? And they have war criminals that they arrested or something.
Yeah. he like talks about going to like speaking to like O'Brien, he says that he feels like he's like closer to death. Like, is that just because he like knows that O'Brien is gonna like eventually like, is he gonna like turn him in, or like I don't understand why he thinks that, especially if he thinks that O'Brien's like on his side.
Anybody want to respond, speculate?
I don't think O'Brien's on his side.
Okay, so then follow that up with a why not? What makes you think that? It's a good thought.
Because if he's so high up in like the government and stuff, like if he's some super important person, I don't think that he could be able to get that far, not believing like what the party thinks.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know, like at the same time, like I had that like feeling in the back of my mind when he like isn't actually like truly with him, like he's tricking him into thinking that he is, so then he'll like confess things and he can like get rid of him.
I thought that too,
He's like, cause he sees him as like a threat.
and if they're like high up in government, wouldn't they watch them more? If they could watch them even more than they watch it this way.
Do you trust your government?
Kind of, yeah.
Okay, so kind of makes me think, well, some things and some things not. It's not a gung-ho,
They
so.
don't really have to like tell us everything, like there's a lot that like we don't know.
Yeah, I think it's weird, like, there's a lot like that we don't know, but then like, they know like everything like about us. Like, they like definitely like eavesdrop on conversations and like phone calls and things like that, even though they say that they don't.
Okay, what makes you think that? Or what kind of situations are you thinking?
I don't know, just with like all the like different technology and stuff that's like came out, that's like so easily like hackable and things like that, that you can just like easily listen to what's being like said or done.
Okay, so why would they keep like secrets from the individuals, the regular folks? Why would your government do that?
Well, if it's like a not good secret, like something, like they don't want to cause like mass terror, like they don't want like the public to be scared and then like go out of control.
Okay, so are they doing it for your own safety?
They think so, but I don't know.
Okay. Are there other people besides the government that might be knowledgeable about your whereabouts and what you do? And
I feel like Apple in a way, because like, like in the settings or whatever, and you go like privacy and stuff, you can like see it like has like listed all your like places you've been, or like my phone like will tell me where like my own cars, like just my car, like knows where it is. Really creepy.
Yeah, it like tells me like when I park my car, like your like location has like been updated and like it shows like where my car is sitting.
But it's like no one else's car, it's just mine.
Yeah, it's just mine too.
So then I don't like even like find my iPhone scares me because it
Yeah.
like tells me within like I think it's within like 5 miles, like exactly.
Well, like when it says like all over, like my mom's in Florida, it says like her phone's in Florida.
So I think it updates like whenever you're on it.
Yeah, it's
Like,
weird.
like
When I get my car, like it knows when I get it, and then it's like it takes 5 minutes to get to your house. This is the way
mine
you take.
does too.
Like, it
like
knows your
suggests
route.
like
Yeah.
from where you're at. Like this is like a website they like suggest once you get home, or like it always does like app suggest from like Power School. It always suggests Power School whenever you get to school.
Yeah.
it suggests Power School?
Or like when you like go like online like on certain like pages and stuff, like sometimes I go and like look at like different shoes on like Nike or like Foot Locker and stuff, and like I go to like a different site and like the pop-up ads, like it's like Foot Locker and like the things that I was like looking on.
Yeah.
There's been like things where people haven't even like looked up like something, like if they would like want to buy something, if they're just like talking about it, it'll like show up in their Facebook ads. Which is
Yeah.
really weird, because like if you haven't searched it, you've just been like talking about it, and then it just like shows up. Why does it show up? And I haven't even looked at anything
No,
up.
coincidence? I think
not.
how like it's like between apps, like because like Ty sent me this link to like this picture. I think it's like of like a watch website, and then like for like since then it's been like a week, and all of my Instagram ads are watches.
Maybe it's Ty. He's gonna
No, or like on SnapMap now, it'll like give like me this notification of like this person traveled from like Fargo to Beulah or like something like that.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
like,
like,
yeah.
whatever hours to go from here to
Yeah,
here.
it's
About other people.
Yeah. Or it's
Like
like
people that you know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or it's like if they like update, if they like Snapchat, like put something on their story in like the building, it'll be like, because I saw like Emma Clinworth added to her story at like this art place, and like that's scary.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
So why is it scary?
It's like, well, I guess you can like turn off like who sees it, but like it's still kind of creepy.
But still, like, the
Well, you
actual
can turn
app
off
still knows
who
where
sees
you
are.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
You
the
literally
company
have
yeah,
like no privacy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone knows where you are at that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
weird.
Like if you want like technology and stuff like that, you're gonna be like tracked down.
It's just something you have to deal with.
So there's kind of a bargaining chip there.
Yeah.
How much privacy? So do you think privacy exists?
Somewhat, but not really anymore.
Yeah.
Probably
That's
the more
what I
technology
think.
you have, the more like the more you're like agreeing to be like eavesdropped on and like
Yeah.
followed.
Yeah.
I guess it would depend on like where you were and what you were doing.
And like no one really, like obviously no one really like reads like terms of like agreement. You know, you have to like agree to it. Like,
Does anybody here read those terms of agreement?
Never read these
60
ones.
pages, so why would you? I think it's like designed so you don't want to read it. So that's a really long time.
Make it really
to say,
long.
If it was like a page, I would consider reading it, but I still probably wouldn't read it. But
I guess, like, along with that, there's no compromise. You either accept it, or you just don't get to use anything at all.
Yeah.
yeah,
Like, you're forced to be giving that information out.
Especially since like cell phones, like, everything's like still like it's not like a necessity, but like nowadays it is like to have everything like that.
Everything is just like
So you just
online
kinda
these
stuck
days.
with, like, with it.
Plus like all the hacking and stuff that goes on, like your information is just like bound to like get out there.
So do you do anything? Do you take any precautions, or you just say, "Yeah, this is really great. I'm looking for these shoes, and Google or Apple, you're gonna find it for me."
I think it's weird.
I think it's scary.
That part doesn't really weird me out, but like I get scared like my accounts and stuff. I just don't like want my accounts to get like hacked and things like that.
Yeah, I just
So
don't
like I
like
try to have the good passwords and like
I just don't like how it's like between apps, like, cause like obviously I like open that link in like Safari. How does Instagram know? Like that's scary.
So there's no firewall.
Yeah, like especially Facebook gets hacked all the time.
Some people's like errands, users
yeah,
just
mine did. I don't
Yeah,
even
you
know
sent
how
me
mine
a
did.
link.
or
yeah, I
something.
didn't open it, but like mine got hacked like 2 years ago. Yeah.
So do a lot of you do things online? Like I know there's a generational gap between like myself and my kids. My kids do so much online. I mean, I don't bank online. I don't, I order things and that's about all I do. But like with my kids, everything is set up, automatic bill pay, bank online. I mean, you take a picture of your check, automatic deposit, that type of thing.
I don't really like bank online yet, just because like I don't work except for like in the summer, so like I don't have like
Sure.
a steady like paycheck coming in throughout the whole year. So like I always just go to like the bank for that kind of stuff. But like I don't know, all my communication and stuff is like online, like social media, that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
I don't like write letters.
Do you see any connections between any of that, like with modern day government or issues or tracking or businesses or your internet use, that sort of thing? Do you see any connections between that and what you're seeing in the book?
I feel like because they can like, I don't know, they like know everything like in the books that they're like doing all the time, and like even their thoughts and stuff. Like they in the government like now can like see all your texts or like Snapchats that you think are gone. They're
Yeah,
still there.
like if they wanted to, if they were like suspicious of me, they could like look at everything on their phone without even like permission. Well, I guess, I don't know, they'd have to have like probable cause, but like,
honestly,
You don't seem like that bar is very high.
Like, since so much like of our lives are like online, like on our phones, like you could find out like just about like anything.
Yeah.
I feel like this book like kind of really relates more to now than it would have ever like back then. 'Cause
How
now
so?
I guess because like now you have all this stuff that like you really can like no matter like what you do, you can try and hide your stuff. But if you had your phone, you're probably gonna get caught, like, if they're looking for you, or, I mean, I guess, like, being watched all the time, or, like, you have, like, your little, like, smart home stuff, like an Alexa, or kind
Yeah.
of, you can easily be, like, recorded, or stuff like that.
All those warnings about smart
Yeah.
home devices.
Plus, like, I think it, like, relates to today because, like, you have, like, that false sense of, like, privacy. Like, you're told that you get all this privacy, but, like, deep down you, like, really know that you're, like, actually, like, being watched all the time through everything.
And like, it's like, there's like, there's like some benefits to it, like if you went missing, like they can like tell where you're at, like where you last were, at like your cell phone, or at least they do on like blue books, but I don't know if that's real.
So if you're kidnapping someone, get rid of their phone.
Yeah, but like, does that like really like outweigh that you have to give away everything about yourself?
That's a good question. Would you go back to a flip phone that wouldn't,
Oh, man,
with all that privacy stuff?
Use those things, so.
So obviously you're willing to give up something for the access.
Wait, what's the question?
No, I just thought it was an interesting thought, you know. How much would you give up? Really?
I don't know, I feel like people nowadays would give up a lot just because we're so, like, attached to, like, our phone.
You're so used to it.
Yeah, like we like grew up right when like phones were starting to like things were or, like more technology.
We started getting phones, like,
So,
right when, like, the
yeah,
smartphones.
So
were,
like
starting to
it's easier for like people who are like a couple years older than us to be like, well, I didn't grow up with that, so it's not something I need to use all the time. But, like we grew up having technology constantly.
That is a really good comment. I think about that. Okay, so it's something that if you can get people when they're young used to something, they're probably going to stick with it. I mean, Twain said the same thing about slavery. You know, if you can teach someone that slavery is a good thing when they're young, they'll probably grow up and accept it, which is what some of the argument was in Huck Finn. And it's kind of the same in this book with the junior spies. I mean, you know, they're spying on their parents, that type of thing. Same thing happened in Nazi Germany when they had the Hitler Youth. You know, so
Yeah, I think that's true, because, like, you always hear, like, your, like, parents or, like, grandparents, they're always, like, saying how, like, we're so, like, attached to our phones and things like that, which, like, I don't know, we've just always, like, had technology, and, like, kids, like, nowadays, like, their parents will be like, go, like, play on your iPad or something, like, get them,
I
like,
think it's getting worse.
to, like,
Like
get
I grew
away.
up like coloring and like coloring books, and then like my nieces and nephews will like
Have, like,
color on
iPhones.
their iPad, and I'm like, why don't you use like actual crayons?
See, like, elementary school
like
kids
that's
with, like,
more fun.
iPhones.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
like-
weird. And then like I remember like whenever I would like go, I remember going to like this one girls basketball game, and like this year, and it was like an away game, but there was like all these little kids there that were just like on their iPads, and like their parents would like have to take them away, and like they'd be like, okay, take away the iPads, and they'd like freak out.
Yeah.
My niece is 1 and she like already knows how to like she doesn't know how to do stuff, but she knows like how to turn it on and how to like open things, and she's like 1 and she knows how to do all that already.
well, they talk about your brain being rewired differently too, and how you perceive information. You scan more and that sort of thing. Even with reading, you know, if you're reading on an iPad, it's different. You know, with the swiping, that comes natural. It's a little bit different than, you know, the book.
Okay, like I have a question. So like the inner party members, do they have like life? Is their like life easier? Because like I mean they're the inner party, but like if it's like not easier, you don't get something out of it. Like why would you support it? Like if you like wouldn't get like
Good
a better
question.
house or like more food.
Well, they said that they get like real sugar and like real coffee and like all the things that normal citizens like can't have. Like all the stuff that what's her name, Julia, got from like the black market. She said that's what like the inner party members have, and it's like just them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is definitely a society that has a hierarchy in it. Mhm.
Or, like, Winston went and talked to, like, O'Brien, and he's, like, saying how he can be, like, a part of this group, and, like, he's gonna get him this, like, special book that he needs to read that Goldstein has. But, like, they say that, like, it says, "You will get no comradeship and no encouragement. When you are finally caught, you will get no help. We never help our members." Like, I thought that was weird. Like, usually, like, if you're a group, you, like, stick together. Like, you're willing to help each other, but, like, these people, like, you're bound to get caught. Like, when you do, it's just, it sucks. That's what happens to you.
Why is that, do you suppose? Why do they have that reason? I mean, it goes back to when I think Garrett was saying that they don't know each other's names, that sort of thing. What is the reasoning behind that, do you think?
Saving yourself, I guess, throw them
personal
under the
gain.
bus.
Okay, and why?
It says it can't be wiped out because it's not an organization in the ordinary sense. Nothing holds it together except an idea, which is indestructible.
Okay, what's that mean?
I guess that if they don't know each other, like if one goes away, it's not gonna affect the rest of them, and it's just gonna, you're still gonna have like the ideas, and the rest of them still believe those ideas.
Yeah, so ideas are powerful things. And that, you know, that's
It's like, since it's not like our government, for example, like you can't have like, you couldn't like not have a president, like you have to have a president. But like
set up.
theirs isn't really like a government, so like you cannot have something
I think it's like,
and it can still function properly.
I think the reason, like, they have, like, all these, like, ideas, like, instilled in them and stuff, like, it, like, that's, like, what keeps them all together, like, and, like, following this so much, because they have, like, this, like, I think it's, like, goes back to, like, that saying that they say that like, contradicts itself, like, they have that so ingrained in everyone that, like, that's what they believe. And, like, anything, like, against that is, like, wrong then. Also, like, I wonder, like, if, like, the, like, glass, like, paperweight or whatever that keeps getting brought up, I think that's gonna be, like, significant, like, for sure, like, later on, because it keeps being, like, brought up throughout, like, the whole, like, thing.
And that's a good clue. If there's something that keeps reoccurring, it's probably going to be a symbol of something. Probably going to be important.
You have a dream about it,
Yeah,
Yep.
maybe it's, like inside of it.
yeah. Which, I don't know, it's kind of weird, I would dream about being in a glass paperweight.
What do you think it might represent? From what you know so far. Anyone want to venture a guess?
Like, I don't know, maybe, like, their whole, since, like, their whole, like, society is, like, just kind of, like, protected by, like, all of this, and, like, they have, like, no privacy and stuff, like, maybe that's just, like, they're in their own little bubble compared to, like, everyone else.
Look at it. If you're dreaming you're inside of something, it probably is your world. And if it's glass, it can certainly be seen.
Or maybe it could mean like, since like you can see it and it like, they're all like kind of trapped in that bubble and the government's on the outside like watching them like in their everything they do.
Yep. Yeah, and the idea of being trapped, when it's controlled. I mean, you could certainly pick up a paperweight, and if the government's on the outside, they control you, pick you up, move you around. Anything else you want to question or talk about?
I just like wonder like how would that like government even come to be? That like because like wouldn't it have to go like slowly like into their society? Like how would you not like realize that like your rights are being taken away and that like we're watching it like your privacy is being invaded and like so many things are changing that you have no control over? Why didn't you stop it before it got like as far as it is now?
I feel like they would just kind of like give them like one thing and then take away like 2 or 3 rights and then just like promise them like one good thing and then take away a few rights, kind of like slowly do that so they wouldn't realize it.
And then rewrite all their history so none of them can realize that, oh, all our rights were just taken away.
And then kill everyone who was alive before then so they can't prove anything wrong.
And if you control that history, you can change it. That's a really good question.
Isn't the government already somewhat like this before like the revolution, but then they just like it's transferred to one person to have all power? Or is that wrong?
I think it was because they were thinking about how many group of people that like ran the government and then they like killed them. Like they like purged them.
Like, there's like a big deal with like capitalism.
So what is capitalism then? It talks about capitalism. At the end, it talks about oligarchy.
Being in business for yourself.
Okay, so at the end of your reading, it talked about collectivism. So what's the difference? They're at odds. Capitalism versus collectivism. Remember you talked about ideas. We've got basically competing ideas here. Didn't you go to 151? Was that the end? You're going to read about a document, and the title page ran, "The Theory and Practice of Oligarchical Collectivism." Okay, make sure you look that up before you, so you know what that is before you start reading. It will help you kind of understand, and then we'll come back to that on Monday when we meet for our next group thing, okay? But think about different forms of government, that sort of thing.